everybody. I hope you're having a great Friday, which means it is time for Farm Fact Friday. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you have been with us in the past, welcome back. One of the things that we talked about in weeks past was the garden. And we talked about tips and tricks for when you're planting and what to plant and some extra things to consider, such as marigolds along with your tomato plants. Well, now we're here in August and the crop within the garden is now ready to be picked, and there is a lot of it. So what better way than to make sure that we can enjoy the goodness of our garden through the entire year and really enjoy the fruits of our labor. And that comes in the form of canning. Now, not every family cans. It's certainly hard work. It takes a lot to make sure that the plants are growing and that we keep up with them. Right now, we just picked last week, but there's still more to be picked out there now. But with some help and everyone working together, you can really fill your pantry with some delicious things to enjoy, hopefully at least through winter, if not the whole year round. So what I'm going to talk about today is just a little bit about canning. How I describe it may not be the exact way that you do it, and that is perfectly fine. The beauty of canning is that it usually is passed on from generation to generation. So the things that I have learned come from my mom, and I still ask her questions to this day, maybe even season after season of, oh, how do I do this again? So I'm just going to share with you some things that I've learned. I've also been able to help some friends learn how to can, which is so fun, and hearing their enjoyment of it is pretty cool. So if you are a canner, I would love to hear what you're canning, or what you really enjoy getting from your pantry throughout the entire year with just some work extra in the summer. So just a little background about canning. It actually started in 1809 by Nicholas Appert out of France, and he was finding a way to preserve food for the Army and Navy to use. So that's where it comes from, and really it's just preservation of food so we can eat it at a later time. So the recipes that go along with the food, you can get those out of cookbooks. They may be a family recipe that you can follow along with. Whatever it is, whatever that recipe is, there's a lot of things that we can do with, say, tomatoes. You can look at making salsa or spaghetti sauce or tomato soup, or you can just chunk them up and make sure that you have tomatoes ready for whatever you want to add them to. So whatever that looks like, it first involves picking the tomatoes off the plants, cleaning them up, cutting out the core, maybe even chunking them up so you can put them through a food processor. Now, any piece of these can get the family involved, or even friends, nieces, nephews, whoever. They can help at a young age by learning what a ripe tomato looks like and picking it off the vine. Then as they get older, they can help with the cleaning process, and once they're able to use a knife safely, they can help with the cutting and putting them into a food processor. So it really can be an entire family that works together to make this happen. As a matter of fact, we have picked and cleaned, and we have tomatoes ready, but we just didn't have the time to cook them yet. So we have tomato in the refrigerator waiting for us to add the extra ingredients for the recipe in order to can. So family can get involved in all kinds of ways, and you can spread it out no matter what your schedule looks like. If you're super busy or if you have all the time in the world, you can make it happen. So after you have your tomatoes picked and ready, you've added the extra ingredients of that recipe, then it's time to can. So let's talk a little bit about canning jars first. So I have two different sizes here. This is a quart-sized jar, this is a pint-sized jar. So these are important to consider with whatever it is that you're canning. So if I'm doing peppers, such as these banana peppers, and I pickle them, it may be wise to use a pint-sized jar because it's going to take longer to eat all those peppers, unless you're a big pepper fan. But if you're making something like spaghetti sauce or tomato soup, where you would use an entire quart, you would want to put it in this jar instead of a smaller one and having to use multiple of those. So the other difference is in the size of the lid. So this is a regular lid, and this is a wide mouth. So really the importance here is whatever you're cooking, whatever recipe you have to make sure that you can fit it in there. So for larger peaches, you would want something like a wide mouth jar so that those peaches could get in there easily without causing much damage. Where something like spaghetti sauce, where you can just put a wide base funnel in here and pour it in easily. So the regular mouth would work for that. The other thing that it indicates is what size lids to get. So regular size lid compared to a wide mouth lid. So purchasing them might be an issue, so you might want to select them based on what's available. And then the lids, if you can see here, and I'm touching them purposely in the middle because it has a rubber ring around it. We want to make sure that that's free and clear of all dirt and anything like that, because that's going to help us make the seal. So as I'm getting the jars ready, these will get boiled in water to loosen that rubber ring to make it ready to seal to the jar. So as the recipe's cooking, just take your jars and put them in the dishwasher and run it through a cycle. So this is going to sterilize it, make them really hot and ready for adding like spaghetti sauce into it. If you don't have a dishwasher, you can wash them by hand and then turn your oven on a low temperature and just stick them in there till you're ready to go. Once you're ready to start filling your jars with whatever it is, like spaghetti sauce, I would recommend putting your canning lids into a saucepan and then adding some water, and then have that on a slow rolling boil while you fill them. So as you're filling your jars, it's also important after you're done filling them to clean off the surface at the top. So you would do this not with your finger, but with a wet washcloth. Wipe that off, and then they'd be ready for the lid. So if you have anything like seeds or sugar crystals, any of that could prevent the jar from sealing, and that's not what we want. After that's cleaned off, then you would pick out your lid that corresponds. So you would do this with a fork, or now they make magnetic little handles that you can do this with. So I would not use my fingers because it's boiling water, but for demonstration, you just stick it on top, and then you would need a metal ring to go on top. So this is kind of a two-piece canning system, and then it's called fingertip tight, which just means you tighten it as tight as you can with your own grip. No additional force is needed. Once you have everything like this, then it's ready to go into your container where you're going to have a hot water bath. So the same thing would be true for this. Fill it up. Make sure the other thing that's important is the head space. So it's the space between the actual contents of the jar and where the lid's going to go. You want to make sure that there's an appropriate amount there, and usually it has that in the directions, because you don't want whatever's inside to push up against that lid, which would not seal. You pick out the wide mouth lid, stick it on there. Again, use the wide mouth metal ring to put it on, fingertip tight, and then this would go into the water bath. So once you have all of them put into your jars and the lid and rings on, they'd go into your pan. You'd add water above the top of the tallest jar, and then you want to boil that water for the specified amount of time. Once that timer goes off, then you can safely and carefully get them out of the water with, it kind of looks like a claw. Kids like to play with it. You put it onto your countertop, like on towels, and then you just wait for that glorious noise of the pops from the other room, when those pops signify that that jar has sealed. Now, you don't want to touch them for at least a day after they're finished through that water bath canning process, because you want to make sure that those seal and cool down. The way to tell if they've sealed or not is by the top. So these are clearly not sealed, and you can hear what a non-sealed can looks or jar sounds like. If they are sealed, you won't have that sound at all. And then we would always write the date on the top with a marker, and sometimes we'd indicate what was in the jar if it was difficult to tell, especially with your tomato products. And then you get to put it in your pantry or down in your basement, wherever you store your canned goods, to enjoy the entire year long. And I don't know about you if you're a canner, but it always brings a smile to my face when I know the work we've put in we can enjoy later. So I hope you've enjoyed today's Farm Fact Friday. I know I personally love canning. I thank my mom for introducing it to me so many years ago, even though I did not quite enjoy cutting up those green beans for hours on end when I was a kid, but now I appreciate it more than ever. So if you would like to share your favorite thing to can, I would love to see that in the comments. If you have any other family or friends that would enjoy watching this, feel free to share with them, or if someone is interested in canning, throw out your questions and we'll see if the community can help get those answered. So with that, have a great rest of your Friday, a wonderful weekend, and we will check you back next time on Farm Fact Friday. Take care.